So this morning we are feeling good and we're blessed. Know that we're blessed, and we're starting a new month. So this month, the CSL theme is Living Everyday Wonder, the Body. Right? Now, our bodies are truly an amazing creation, a divine creation, right? As is all of the created world. And our topic today is Welcome to the Temple, the body temple. So now the holiest of holies is the inner, in the Jewish tradition, is that inner chamber of the Jewish temple. And it's separated by a veil from the outer chamber, or walls in some of the temples, and it's reserved for the presence of God. Right? And it would have veils all around it, and it was only entered by the high priest on the Day of Atonement. So this was a really special place where that was sacred, where the presence of God actually was. And if they thought if anyone wasn't really prepared to at that high level of consciousness and would go in there, that they might be killed even. It was a very sacred kind of thing. And now, according to the scripture, in that Holy of Holies, was the Ark of the Covenant, and that is where after Moses had gotten the Ten Commandments from God, the temple was built by the King Solomon, and to put that Ark of Covenant in that Holy of Holies in the center. Now, this also means that the Holy of Holies is what you call in that spiritual conjunction of heaven and earth, known as the axis mundi, where heaven and earth come together. In science of mind, we don't believe that there's only one place in that temple that we have the presence of God. We believe that the presence of God is everywhere present, and it's within us. And the Sufi tradition, they talked about it being within your heart. And for us, it's within that heart, within us. It is, and our body is the way that we mediate between the spiritual world and the physical world. So our bodies are both physical and spiritual at the same time, right? And so everything, and one of the reasons we believe in the power of prayer and work with practitioners is that we know that our minds and our spiritual beliefs are manifested in our body. And that's what we're talking about. So the body temple is the place where the presence of God resides. It's a place where God is able to live, move, and have its being. In 1 Corinthians 6:19-20, Paul said, Know ye not that your body is the temple of the Holy Ghost, which is in you, which ye have of God, and ye are not on your own? For you are bought with a price, and therefore glorify God in your body and your spirit, which are God's. So our bodies are a divine creation, part of that kingdom of God. In Paul's letter to the Ephesians, he said, There was one body and one spirit, one Lord, one faith, one baptism, one God and Father of all, who is over all and through all and in all. Right? So we talk about God being within us, within our body. It's over all of us, around us, and it expressing itself through us, right? And as us, and in all people and in all things. It's all God. When we look at someone, when we look in their eyes, we are looking at the eyes of God, right? And so our body is, in Science of Mind textbook, Ernest Holmes says, our body is part of the kingdom of God, and therefore there is a spiritual pattern at the center of our being. There's like a blueprint, that perfection that is that possibility that is creating us. Ernest Holmes explains what this means further in the Science of Mind glossary, using two words that theologians use to describe God. The first is immanent. So immanent means remaining or operating within the subject considered, derived from, nor passing without, indwelling, inherent. So God is immanent within us, within our bodies. And so contrasted with the word transcendent, which means beyond, all, surpassing. Right? So we recognize that God is both immanent and transcendent at the same time, which means that he is in us, but definitely more than all we are. I mean, God is everything that we can see in the physical world and even more, right? That transcendent part. So this then makes our bodies truly amazing, right? We live our lives in these bodies that are everyday wonder. Our bodies are where God is both immanent and transcendent. Right. Now, there's lots of different types of bodies. Just looking around this room and throughout the world, we can see that, but all of these different types of bodies are divinely created. And all the bodies are divinely, inherently good, deserving love and respect. You know, plants come in endless varieties. We have flowers, fruits and vegetables, grasses, bushes, evergreen, deciduous trees, just an amazing variety. And there's colorful blooms, and then a wide variety of just greens and browns and in the plants. And some are adapted to require lots and lots of water, and others love a dry environment, right? Some flourish in the bright sunlight, and some like to stay in the shade, a little more protected. So similarly, our bodies vary in many ways. Some are tall, some are short. Some are strong and others are delicate. Some are skinny, some are fat, in between. Some are white, black, and brown. And all of these variations are part of that marvelous diversity that's displayed in nature. Now, June is Gay Pride Month, and we celebrate the diversity of people, of their sexual orientation and their gendered identities of the human beings. And so there's the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transsexual, inquiring, androgynous, all of this range of things. So there's a Reverend Georgia Prescott, who is at the Center for Spiritual Awareness in Sacramento. She's retiring this summer. And she sent out a reading that she suggested that we share with everyone. It's from the late gay activist Harvey Milk, who was murdered while he was serving as the San Francisco supervisor. And he said, talking about diversity, "I can't forget the looks on the faces of people who've lost hope. Be they gay, be they seniors, be they black looking for an almost impossible job, be they Latins trying to explain their problems and aspirations in a tongue that's foreign to them. I personally will never forget that people are more important than buildings. It takes no compromise to give people their rights. It takes no money to respect the individual. It takes no political deal to give people freedom. It takes no survey to remove repression." And so it is. Right? Now, your body is exactly what it needs to be for the divine to express itself as you. You have a unique place on this planet. You are important. You are part of the fabric of the world. Right? And so imagine looking at a rose and telling it, "Oh no, you should be a sunflower," right? Or maybe you look at a cactus and you say, "No, you need to get rid of those thorns and become an aspen tree because I need some more shade here," right? Because if you're in the desert, you're probably really happy to have the cactus, right? How about judging a lily by the same standards that you would judge a fern, right? Very different. Each one is perfect and wonderful in its own way. So similarly, we seek to honor and accept and embrace all the different types of people in the world. Each person is a unique combination of characteristics that makes them the perfect for God to express itself in and through and as them. Now, just as importantly, we need to love and accept ourselves just as we are. Rather than comparing ourselves to other people or disparaging ourselves, what if we loved ourselves for being the unique and wonderful expression of the divine that we are, right? I mean, I remember when I was in college, we used to talk about everybody had to be uniquely weird in their own way. It was just, right? And we were, it made it, made it easy to be a nerd or whatever you were, right? And so instead of, if we loved ourselves, and how empowering that would be, right? Radical self-love requires that we love every facet of ourselves, right? All of our things that are just like everyone and all of our things that are different. our hair, whatever it does today, bad hair day, good hair day, it is a great day, right? And we release many of those limiting expectations and judgments that society has been making about us, all right? A lot of the pressure we put on ourselves is stuff that we say, oh, I should be taller. I should lose some weight. I should put on some weight. I should exercise more. I should eat less. I should eat better food. I should eat less food. I mean, feeding your kids, all of these things are important about taking care of our bodies, but it's not about dealing with the judgment, right? It's about caring for this divine body temple, right? The way that you would nurture your garden, you want to nurture our own bodies and love it just as it is, right? The judgments that we have made about ourselves are perhaps the thing that we have to worry about. A man named Bessel van der Volk in The Body Keeps the Score book says the greatest sources of our suffering are the lies we tell ourselves. Right? Maybe something that we've heard our whole childhood from our parents or people around us. Well, we have to really go within and find out who we are. And that's why the Sufis talk about having that, nurturing your relationship with God in your heart of hearts is so important. That's the divine creation that we are. That's who we truly are, and that's what's important. Some people have a green thumb, and those gardeners, they have an amazing ability to grow luscious green and healthy plants with a profusion of colorful blooms, and their gardens always look so fantastic. And they're careful to nurture their plants with just the right amounts of soil and water and fertilizer. They locate their plants in the ideal place for the right amount of sun, but nevertheless, they have a secret weapon. Their loving attention, right? So you can try this experiment yourself. So take two plants, same kind of plants, and give them identical amounts of sunlight, water, and fertilizer. Now for one plant, lavish on it all the attention about how wonderful it is, words of praise for its beauty as it grows, and admire its blooms as they start in that little tiny little tip coming out of the stem, and then it turns into a bud, and eventually, and you can see that color kind of peeking out, and then it blooms into this glorious bloom, and the smell, the scent is so good to drink it in. And what beauty. And is this bloom delicate or durable, and is the color a light pastel or just a deep, rich color? Connect with this plant as part of that divine world of creation, right? It's fabulous. Now the other plant, water it, feed it, but ignore it, basically. And when you do come to water it, make sure that you notice anything that seems to be going wrong with that plant. All right? Is the green seem to be turning a little yellow, Or maybe the limbs are getting spindly, or maybe they're too thick, or doesn't have any blooms or too many blooms or something. What is it growing all to one side, I mean, it's maybe it's trying to reach the sun, but we're not going to turn it. We're just going to let it keep doing that, right? Do the blooms fail to open? Now, tell this plant to shape up if it wants to be beautiful. It's got all of these problems. If it wants to be beautiful, it must know how to be beautiful. And look at this other plant, right? Well, if we look at these plants as they develop with these two different levels of care and nurturing, one is full of admiration and love and caring, and the other one, tough and demanding, right? More than that plant gets any notice at all. It's probably two different ways of parenting, too. And what you will probably notice is that the plant that's been admired and nurtured will flourish. And it will grow faster, stronger, and more lushly than its struggling counterpart. Right? Now, if plants respond this dramatically to our loving admiration and nurturing care, how do you believe our own bodies will respond to our loving attention and nurturing care? If we compare it to condemnation and neglect, all right? Whatever, we've all probably got some fault that we get fixated on, and we just say, oh, I really need to get this changed. My eyebrows are too thick, or I have to lose some weight, and I really hate to diet, but I really got to. We get into all this whole condemnation thing, and I said I need to exercise, and I was reading one book, the book, The Body is Not an Apology by Sandra Prenay, something. Anyway, I forget her name, but anyway, she has a wonderful sense of humor, and so she's overweight, but she feels really fabulous about being this person that she is, but I need to lose some weight, so she started jogging, and when she was jogging, it was really hard on her to jog, and it didn't feel good. She didn't like it, but she was being faithful to do it. I mean, when she jogged, it made her teeth hurt, right? And one day she was trying to run a 5K marathon. And she'd been training for about 6 weeks. And it wasn't getting any easier, more and more painful. And she went halfway through her practice run that day and she said, I'm done. I do not like to jog. And so what she decided to do is that she was African American, and so she found an African American dance class and joined it. And she loved it. And she had no problem going twice a week or however often she went because she loved it when she was there. She felt alive, and this is exciting, and she felt in tune with her body, right? So it's about being in tune with our bodies, listening to what they tell us that they need. They'll tell you. They tell you when you're hungry. They tell you when you're full, right? They tell you when you need sleep, right? So it's about that connection with the body temple where God is dwelling. And so God is dwelling there, and each and every body is inherently good and valuable, and they flourish with our appreciation, love, respect, and attention, that connection. We're not very far away from this body because we're always right here with it, right? So many of us, though, we do have these unreasonable beauty standards that so many people have, and the magazines. I remember reading years ago where the magazines would edit the photos of the model to make them look skinnier. I mean, anorexic, really, right? And nowadays you find more magazines that will have plus-size models and actresses, that are very out, I'm very happy to be me and a great actress. We remember Judy Garland and all the diet pills they made her take when she was a kid and to keep her weight down, and stimulants to wake her up, and depressants to make her go to sleep at night. And she was just totally controlled by these pills, and she really had trouble getting in touch with herself. And, it had a tragic end for her. But I think that it's been interesting also to watch as the boomers are great aging. And the whole thing of Botox, what kind do you have, whatever, how long does it last? Maybe it falls and it turns ugly when it doesn't, whatever. And so some people are giving it up. It has side effects. And so what does it look like to age? What does it look like to be able to raise your eyebrows and have your forehead move, right? And so you can have a real expression, right? So it's something of being in touch with the body, and there's that connection of our eyes are always vibrant and alive, whatever we're doing. I love people. You can look at somebody who's 92 and they look, as alive as a teenager, because it is that inner light that doesn't change. It's that inner light that's divine, right? And so, in Science of Mind, though, it is also important to take care of our bodies. It's not just a biomechanical machine that we can ignore. We talk about spiritual beings having a physical existence, but that doesn't mean that we want to ignore it. It doesn't mean that it's just an illusion. When healthy food, rest, exercise are all important, and in Science of Mind, we also believe that God works through doctors. So it helps to take a medication when you need to. It gives your body a rest. Yes, it helps to have that spiritual healing, but we do it in parallel. You can take the aspirin, it'll get rid of your headache while you're dealing with the spiritual reason that you got the headache in the first place, right? The Ernest Holmes talks about this. He says in the book The Essential Ernest Holmes, since we cannot walk on water, we take a boat or an aspirin, right? Very pragmatic man. Now, another thing about our bodies is that they hold experiences of both pleasure and pain. And we learned about this a couple of weeks ago in the workshop with Melissa and Z when they talked about truth and communication. And the we take all of this collective pain and trauma, and it comes into our bodies, and it could be our own life experiences, and it could be just everything that we're going through. You know, all of the trauma of the pandemic is there with us, and guns against uh, gun violence operation. I'm wearing orange today because this is the orange weekend for supporting gun control legislation. Because enough is enough is enough, right? This time we need to make a change. And so this is something where it creates trauma in people. I mean, kids afraid to go to school because they might not come home. I mean, that's a pretty crazy way to live, right? The way we do in America. And so we want to take action. It was interesting. In the news this week, the Tampa Bay Rays and the New York Yankees were playing, and they agreed to suspend the normal Twitter coverage of the game and replace it with pro-gun control messages. And they made a $50,000 donation to Everytown Incorporated, which is a gun control nonprofit, right? And one of their subsidiaries is the Moms Against Gun Violence that are holding vigils around the country this weekend. Well, Governor DeSantis in Florida didn't like that idea, and so he vetoed a $35 million training facility that was going to be a subsidy from the state for their team. But they had made a decision. They knew what was important, right? Now, we need to tune into the body to find out what messages it is giving us. And there is, in the book that Michael read from this morning, Robert Fraser, Heart, Self, and Soul, and he is a sheikh, Sufi sheikh. And he said, if we remember that our hearts are divine temples, the sense of self and our whole psychology is transformed. From this perspective, we are not worldly creatures seeking the spiritual. We are spiritual beings seeking to discover our true nature. What we truly are is to be found in our heart of hearts. Right? The deeper we enter into our own hearts, the closer we get to God. Now, Melissa and Z, when they gave their workshop, it was based on the underlying teaching by a doctor, Dr. John Sarno. And he talked about healing back pain. And when in his patients, he found that when he was looking at people that had back pain or pain anywhere in their bodies, that the severity of the pain had really nothing to do with the physical condition of their body. There could be people that could have herniated discs that would have no pain, and people that had just cracked discs that would be in dire pain, right? So there was something else going on. So a lot of it is in the mind, he discovered. And so and typically it was anger that was really important. And so he was going in and having people identify what they were angry about, they if they would discover that and acknowledge it and release it, then their pain will go away. You know, I watched a video by a man that he had severe back pain, that it was really disabling him, and so he and it seemed to be triggered on the weekends when he was out mowing his lawn and cutting his shrubs and all around his yard. And when he started looking at what he was angry about, he realized he really hated doing yard work. And so he hired a gardener, and his pain went away, right? It was his body telling him what he wanted to do, needed to do differently. And so Melissa and Z, in their Truth and Love communication process, they talked about, we did some exercises in pairs about listening to our bodies and what is it that we were feeling, and to let those feelings be released. What is it that was giving us anxiety? And it's amazing what came up, when we were doing the journaling and talking to each other in 3 minutes you can come up with, you run out of the standard list real quickly, and then the rest of it just starts coming and coming and coming, right? And so we learn to live harmonious with our bodies. We learn to listen to what they're telling us, right? And it can heal the symptoms of pain and illness. And once our bodies no longer need to shout at us, well, then they don't. We can have that deep divine wisdom and intuition of being still and know the presence of God within us as the truth of who we are. There was a psychologist who works with teenagers, and she had two clients that had very similar backgrounds. They were both juniors in high school, both good students with high GPAs. They both came from comfortable home lives. They were the same race, lived in the same general area of town, and so much about them was similar. But both the two young women seemed very drastically different when they came to the psychologist's office. The doctor noticed that the first client, she was happy, relaxed, well-adjusted, and generally doing well emotionally. She felt connected to her family and friends. She handled challenges that came up with grace and looked forward to her future. Right? She played on the softball team at her school, and she felt comfortable in her own skin, being herself. Now, the second young woman struggled. She was anxious and sad. She didn't feel like she fit in. Right? She struggled with an eating disorder and just felt that she wasn't right. Regardless of what she tried, it wasn't working. She just disliked herself. She disliked the body that she was living in, right? And with therapy, she eventually came to be more comfortable and healed, but it took a lot of work, right? It was like she was rowing upstream and the other young woman was rowing downstream all the time. The main difference was the difference in the relationships that they had developed with their bodies from the start. The first young woman had partnered with their body. She was used to playing sports, aware of the sensations that it felt, and she gave it what it needed, rest or food or what have you. But the second one always viewed her body as a thing that she had to, it was separate from her, and she was stuck with this body, right? And so she didn't like it, she couldn't get rid of it, so she punished it, and that's what these eating disorders are all about. And she held it to an unreasonable standard. She told it that it wasn't good enough, and it suffered, right? So the conclusion that the psychologist came to was that when we have a healthy relationship with our bodies and we treat them as partners who look after ourselves and our needs and really integrate our inner self with our outer self, with our body, that we have more stable and fulfilling lives. We are centered in the spirit. We know who we are. And we have a friend right there with us, our body, right? Always in communication. We're listening to it and respecting it. It makes all the difference. So it's lots of information. We're going to go into these ideas further as we go further into the month. But for this week, I'd like you just to sit with two ideas. One, your body is perfect exactly as it is. And second, your body is a divine tool vibrating with the flow of the divine source. In my meditation this week, I had an image come to me, and I saw myself as being in the flow, the divine flow. And it was this kind of iridescent blue light flowing along, and I was in the middle of it. It was a great feeling to be in the flow of God around me, everywhere direction. And then they started having these streaks of gold light that started flowing through me. And then another, and then another, and another. And eventually, there was only me. I was in the flow, and I couldn't tell where I stopped and the flow started. I was truly one with God. And the distinction that I had seen between myself and God in the flow before was of my own construct. I had created that barrier. I had created that dividing line between me and God. In Science of Mind, we talk about going from the third kingdom where God is flowing through us to the fourth kingdom where it's God as us. And so I really felt that in that moment, that this body, this me who I am, is God as me, right? There is no separation unless we make ourselves separate, unless we cut ourselves off, because we're already God in form, right? It's an amazing shift. How would your life change if you realized this difference about yourself, if you knew this to be true, right? How can you work towards becoming friends with your body and listening to your voice? And next week we're going to talk about loving your body, really loving it just as it is. June 19th, Brenda Haldorn is going to talk to us about the body remembers what's occurred. June 26th, the one body, the one life that is God. Reverend Lonnie Howard will be here to talk with us about that. And then July 3rd, starting a new month on relationships, Reverend Lauren Arneson is going to be here to talk about me, myself, and I. So lots of things coming up. But right now, let's take all of this into prayer. And so in this moment, we allow ourselves to let go of the world outside, and we go within. We bless the world and go deeper. We bless our bodies and all of its senses, and we go deeper. And we bless our thoughts and give gratitude, and we go deeper. And our feelings are there of this day, of all that it has, what we've done so far and what's coming up in the next hour, and the next day, the next week. And we let it go and go deeper within, into our heart of hearts, the place where that eternal flame is always burning, to that place that is the connection between the physical and the spiritual world, the place where we know that we are simultaneously a spiritual being and a physical being having an experience here on earth. And so in this moment, we sense that freedom of knowing that we are God in form. All the barriers, all the limitations that we have set for ourselves, they dissolve. They are not ongoing. They do not endure. What endures is the wholeness and the perfection and the love and the compassion and the peace, deep abiding peace that is the truth of who we are. And it is good. It is so grateful to be alive, to be who we are, this unique, wonderful being that is a gift to the world. And so now as we look back out at the world, as we look through all of the feelings and the thoughts, we look at our body and we see it as that divine creation. It's like opening up a new package, a new present on our birthday that is brand new, fresh in this moment. And so we start new this day as a divine creation, just feeling that life vibrating through us in all of its wonder and full of life, of joy and peace, abundance, every good thing. We have this divine balance that is right here. And our body says, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for paying attention. Thank you for recognizing who I am. Thank you for partnering with me. And so as we turn outward now from this place of wholeness, we're not moving away from God's center, from our heart of hearts, from the Holy of Holies. We are feeling our spirit stretch out and expand to fill our bodies, to fill this room, to commune with each other, to fill this community with love and light and peace, to fill the world, feeling that healing and wholeness of peace. Respond to every mind, every heart, for it is each one of us is a part of the divine. And so each one of us is uplifted, all of God everywhere present, connected as one. And it is good. From the beginning to the end, and right here in this moment, all is well and all is God. And so it is with deep gratitude that we say thank you to our bodies. Thank you for being exactly who you are. Thank you for supporting me, for loving me, for guiding me. Thank you for your messages. And thank you for responding to the love and caring that I share with you. I bless the Center for Spiritual Living Tahoe-Truckee and all that it needs as a divine creation is also provided to support it with love and light and abundance and friendship and people that find their spiritual souls fed here. They find spiritual community and joy and laughter and transformation and growth. It is a part of who we are. It is part of nurturing our lives and our community in so many wonderful ways. And so I release these words to the universal mind, to the universal body, to the universal spirit that manifests it all, and even better. Together we say, and so it is.